Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 15th of February, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar. It's up again slightly this morning, just steadily marching up the hill. We're seeing that in the 60-minute point and figure chart as we just push higher. So, dollar is in bullish territory on the weekly, daily, and 60-minute charts. That's my long term, my medium term, and my short term time frames. Taking a look at the euro, we see the euro is actually coming under pressure with that stronger dollar. This November low is really what we're watching here for any moves below there. Japanese yen, we're seeing the dollar strong here, just pulling back a bit this morning, and that's normally the first place we see any move for the dollar. So it does suggest that the dollar's short-term run might just come under a little bit of pressure against the other currencies. Sterling sitting lower this morning at $1.28 against the euro. We're $1.13. Sorry, €1.13. So we're seeing sterling lower here as well. Against the Swiss franc, we're up this morning just very slightly, but it is bearish here as well. And against the Aussie dollar, we're seeing that as well. Bitcoin up 0.5%, but really doesn't make any difference to the chart. We see we're still bearish on the long and medium term charts. Stock markets last night, the US stock markets were a little bit lower. The S&P 500 index was down 0.27%. Not enough to change the trend. We're still bullish on the short-term chart. Taking a look at the Nasdaq, we see that we're also just holding on to the bull trend as well, and the Dow was actually down 100 points, which is nowadays just 0.41%. We've got quite a lot of upside targets here on the Dow, so it is still looking pretty good for a recovery. The Russell 2000, the broader based index, also holding its strength with 3 upside targets to play for, so it does look like this recovery is looking pretty good still. The S&P future is down 1/3% this morning, and the Nasdaq E-mini down 0.37%. Does suggest we'll end the week in the US on a slightly lower note. In the UK, the market is little changed this morning, so we are just seeing that we're holding the bull trend and fighting a bit of medium-term resistance. So we've still got work to do to get back into bullish territory on that chart, and the same is true on the 250 as well. So mid caps in the UK just a little bit more volatile as we're seeing here from this chart. And just struggling medium term. The DAX is down 0.46% this morning, down 0.5%, and so we are still bearish on the all 3 charts there. So DAX not looking good. The CAC Courant actually bucking the trend in Europe. It has been the stronger market. We've been saying that for some time. The CAC Courant is actually the stronger European market. Not quite yet bullish on that medium-term chart. Japan was down just under 1%, so a sell-off there. Hang Seng down 1.87%, and the Chinese market falling away 1.4%. And disappointing numbers out in China is just dominating really, and we saw the Asian market selling off as a result. The Sensex Indian market turning short-term bearish. The Aussie market bucking the trend and holding on to its bullish position on all 3 time frames. Brent crude up further this morning, nudging the $65 mark now. So short-term bullish. We've got targets to 67.50, 65.50, which we've give us 1% or 4% upside potential. So it does look like we'll go higher on crude. WTI also pushing higher. US nat gas also looking pretty weak still at $2.58. Gold pushing higher this morning, putting us back into bullish territory on the short-term chart. Not quite yet activating this upside target, but interestingly, we are just seeing gold is bullish on all 3 charts. So interesting there. Silver not looking as strong as gold. We're not yet in bullish territory. US 10-year yields sitting at 265, so 2.65%. Back into bearish territory on the yields there, and that means bond prices rising, yields falling, bond prices rising. We see the German bonds rising. This data coming from Thomson Reuters Icon, or if you're a private user, Metastock Zenith, but of course with Updata you can run on pretty well any data source you like. Taking a look at the stocks, and here I'm using Yahoo Finance. Just a quick look at the markets. We see Asia is mostly red. Europe, we've got a few markets down, but it's mixed, and we saw in the US last night that the tech stocks fared a little bit better. Taking a look at the tech majors, again, this all data from Yahoo Finance, real time when the US market is open. Google was up very slightly. Not much change there on the chart. Amazon was down 1%, so they're just struggling to get through on that medium-term trend there. Apple were up a third of a percent, but not enough to get them back into medium-term bullish for sure. Looking very like Apple is finding support on that long-term weekly cloud. Taking a look at Facebook, we were down very slightly, but holding on to the medium-term trend there. And if we just look at some of the other majors, we've got Microsoft was little changed. Looking at the percentage performance, Starbucks was the best performer last night, and that chart is looking really good, making new highs, multi-year highs. So Starbucks is really leading the market there. And the relative performance versus the Dow Jones, we're seeing about 15% outperformance since the beginning of last year. Looking at the other end of the market, there weren't many stocks down. Autodesk, very small falls there, so a pretty broad rise for the Nasdaq yesterday. The Aussie market overnight, finishing the week down under. Domain holdings were up 21%, not enough to really change the chart though. Even though that's a massive rise, it's been a big faller. Linus Corporation down 12%, up 12%, sorry, and still again not enough to change the chart. Avo Group and then Bega Cheese up 7%, but again, not enough to change the chart. If you look at the other end of the spectrum, we've got Automotive Holdings Group down 8%, Whitehaven Coal down 6.7%. So we are seeing some pretty mixed performances there. China was mostly down, as we said, only 4 stocks up in the Shanghai index. And we saw some pretty big falls here, down 6% for Hantai Securities, for example. In India, looking at India this morning, the best performers, Power Grid Corporation up 4%, NTPC up nearly 4%. But again, not enough really to change the chart here. We saw yesterday that quite a lot of the oil stocks were falling in India. 2% recovery for oil and gas, natural gas corporation. Here we see the live prices coming in from Yahoo. Set on my system to come in every minute, so my charts are always up to date. Looking at the downside, we have Dr. Reddy's down 5%. A lot of volatility in that stock today. Lupin down 4%, and that's making new lows on the daily chart, taking us back to 12-month lows. We see here the relative breaking down as well, multiple downside targets. Of course, you can do this for any stock. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.